Hi, this is John Sterling, and you're listening to the Batboy's Corner podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 5 of the Batboy's Corner podcast. I'm Billy Pinkney, coming at you from the Batboy's Corner studios in Little Falls, New Jersey. Today we have an exciting episode for you, as in just a few moments we'll be talking to former New York Yankees World Series champion strength and conditioning coach and current performance coach, and that's Dana Cavalea. He's currently doing a lot of work with athletes and CEOs of companies and helps them reach their goals. So we're going to take a quick break here on the Batboy's Corner podcast, and when we come back, we'll have performance coach Dana Cavalea on over the phone. Throughout my interviews over the years, I've always asked my interviewees what advice they would give to a younger player. I've decided to take those clips of motivational advice and turn them into Motivation Monday. Check BillyTheBatboysCorner.com every Monday to receive brand new advice from professional athletes. All right, we are back here on the Batboy's Corner podcast with former New York Yankees strength and conditioning coach and current performance coach Dana Cavalea. Coach, thanks for coming on. How's everything?
Everything's good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You've been doing great things here with the New York Yankees when they won the World Series, and now you have your own company where you help CEOs and business leaders reach their goals. Can you just take us through your career and explain the role you had with the Yankees and how that transitioned into what you're currently doing?
Yeah, well, listen, my career path in baseball, I think, is much like many that don't make it on the field as a player. So we sort of find these other avenues within the game where we can still be a part of the game. And for me, I grew up in New York on Long Island, aspiring baseball player. I ended up playing at a college called Queens College in New York, and I decided that the cold weather was no longer for me. So I decided to move down to Florida, Tampa, and go to the University of South Florida, go Bulls. And I started interning with the football team there. I was getting my degree in sports medicine, and started interning with the football team. I knew the Yankees had spring training down in Tampa. I knew the Blue Jays weren't too far away. The Pirates were close. So it was a real sports-centric area. And where I grew up on Long Island, you never saw a pro athlete. They were sort of these foreign figures. So I was excited to go down there and literally, here it was a February afternoon in Tampa, and I decided to take a drive over to watch the Yankees practice. So I head on over to the field, Steinbrenner Field, start taking pictures of the players through a chain link fence with my flip phone back in the day. And it was really cool. I was sending those pictures home back to New York. And that afternoon, I ended up going back to my internship at the University of South Florida. And the head coach called me in his office, head strength coach, and says, Dana, can I talk to you? Now, where I come from, that's usually the minute right before they let you go. And anyway, he said, I got a call from the strength coach with the Yankees, and he's looking for someone to hand out water, hand out towels, basically watch the weight room while he's out on the field. Would you have some interest in that? And I said, as a matter of fact, I just got back from there, and I would have a tremendous amount of interest to do that. When do I start? And he said, head on over there tomorrow. So I drove over to that same field I was at the day before. This time I had a parking spot right up front. The day before I was about a mile and a half away because I couldn't afford the parking. And I walk in, main office. Are you Dana Cavalea? I said, yep. Threw a credential around my neck, C for clubhouse, F for field access, threw me in Yankee gear. And next thing you know, that field I was taking a picture of a day earlier, I was now in the middle of team stretch. So my life changed in a very short period of time. And I'm glad it did.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, first I got to ask you about your time with the Yankees, being a part of that 2009 World Series champion team. Can you just talk about your experience being able to work alongside that group of guys?
Yeah. Well, I started with the organization in 2002. So it was a very winning organization at that time. Then we went through a little bit of a slow go. And when we got to 2009, it was awesome because we picked up A.J. Burnett, we picked up Mark Teixeira, and we picked up CC Sabathia in the offseason, and that's the one thing the Yankees do really well, and Brian Cashman does really well. Identify your targets, identify your talent, and then go get them and put your team in a position to win. So that's what we were going into 2009 with a lot of momentum. We brought Nick Swisher on, and sort of Swish may have been with us the year before, but the energy was strong. So when you have strong energy and you have a group of players that are sort of at that superstar level, but they haven't won, and you join them up with players like Jorge, Jeet, Mo, and Andy, who hadn't already won and have a standard of winning and don't accept anything less than winning, you have a really good chance to do some great things. And that's what happened. And those core 4 players and A-Rod, they embraced those new players, and together that team sort of reached really this magical feeling. I call it lift, where the team starts to get better and better, and the team starts to actually take off. And even when you make mistakes, those mistakes are, you find ways to make up for them, and everybody steps up.
What has your biggest challenge been from working with high-level pro athletes to your current business model of working with business executives?
Well, I still work with high-end athletes, so that's a part of my life that hasn't changed. So I still continue to do that. I don't do as much with them in terms of day-to-day physical training. I've actually worked with them a lot more on their mindset and physicality. I still do design the physical programs for a lot of players as well, but the actual being with them on a day-to-day basis, I'm not there as much. But when it comes to working in the business world, what's really cool is I work with the Derek Jeters and the A-Rods and the highest performers in the business world, from Wall Street to CEOs in tech, CEOs in healthcare. So it's this sort of same killer mentality. And, they have a lot of good habits. We have to take good habits and make them great habits. We have to take those attitudes when they get down and they get negative and they feel like there's a lot of struggle in front of them and sort of push them back into the rhythm where they can find success. So the transition's been not very difficult because I'm a coach, right? So coach is coach. And it doesn't, whether I'm coaching you or I'm coaching A-Rod or I'm coaching a high-level CEO, it's all the same. Coaching is coaching. Taking someone from where they are and helping them get to where it is that they want to be. And that's the commitment of a coach. You make it about your people, make it less about you, and everybody wins.
Do you use the same techniques and strategies with your corporate clients as you do with your professional athletes?
I do. The only difference is, most of those corporate clients, they're managing teams. They're managing teams of people, personnel. They're managing their players. So there's that element where when it comes to players, they're just managing themselves and how they orientate themselves and work within a team. So it's a little bit different in that way. So for the executive and the CEO and the leader, and I work with some team sports owners, it's saying, we got to take care of you, but then we also have to talk about all these other people that you're responsible for. A player is typically responsible for themselves and their family, and that's pretty much it. I mean, they are responsible to be great teammates, but it's less than you'd have to you wouldn't have to have the same conversation with a player that you would a CEO as it relates to managing people.
When you work with your clients, do you start with the mental side? Because I feel that all starts with having that right mindset, and then you could apply that to whatever you do, whether you're an athlete or running your own business.
Yeah, so what's interesting is, mindset is one of those new buzzwords. It's everywhere you look on the internet. Everybody's a mindset coach. Everyone has a solution for mindset. For me, I look at it a little bit differently. I believe if you improve somebody's physicality, you'll improve their mindset. And it goes off of the thought process of after you train, after you exercise, after you better your physicality, how do you feel about yourself? You feel better about yourself. And what does it take to win in sport? What does it take to win in business outside of talent? It takes confidence. So all of this talk about mindset, if you start thinking about your mindset, it's very hard to improve your mindset. If you can feel great within your body at a cellular level, at a strength level, at a conditioning-based level, you'll feel better. I've seen scrawny people get stronger, better themselves physically, and they walk around like they're 6'5", right? I've seen players that are 6'5". You get them stronger, you get them better, and they start walking around, like they're Arnold Schwarzenegger, with a lot of confidence. So it's a little bit different. I don't approach it with the mindset. I believe mindset is something that we're always working on, but I don't really know how you work on it specifically outside of helping somebody to navigate their negative thoughts and sort of keep them focused on where it is that we're going. Because baseball, business, these are sports based on failure. I tell business people, listen, you're playing the most competitive sport in the world in business. you got the hungriest and most competitive people playing it, you're going to need a lot of energy. And if you have a lot of energy, you can endure more than the average person. So you're going to have greater levels of success. So for me, I look at it, improve your physicality and your mentality will come along for the ride.
Right. Do you think in order to maximize performance, the mental aspects are as important as the physical?
You know what? I'm a little bit biased, but in a sport like baseball, I'd say, you have to have a foundational level of strength, power, endurance, and the ability to resist injury, because you can be the best psych coach and mental coach in the world. If a player doubts his physicality, he's toast. He can't win. You can give them every drill, every tool to improve their psychological state. If they doubt their body, when the pressure is on, they're going to melt like a candle. Mm-hmm. I've seen it.
Right. Are all athletes' work ethics similar? We see guys training all the time. Have you noticed guys who are much more motivated or willing to put in that work?
I think every athlete is different. You look at a guy like Derek Jeter. He was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday guy. He trained Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You see a guy like A-Rod, he's a Monday through Friday guy. You see a guy like Brett Gardner, he's a Monday and maybe Friday guy. You know what I mean? So every player is different. They all have unique routines. They all have unique levels of work ethic. And here's the other side. The psyche of the player is also very fragile. These guys, I always say too, they're like Formula One cars. You go around the lap once, they're fine. They come around again, there's something going on. So you got to treat everyone as an individual. And if you miss that, you're going to miss big on a player. So it's not just about saying, hey, here's the workout routine. Here's my expectation for you. It's about talking to the player and saying, what are we here to do? What are we here to do together? And let's talk about your game, where we need to improve it. And I saw this with a guy like Robinson Cano when he was about 32 years old. He was having issues getting to some balls deep in the hole that he was getting to when he was in his 20s. So what did we do? We extracted that weakness, which was part of his game, and we attacked it. Same thing with Derek Jeter. He was having issues laterally as he got older. So what did we focus on? Did we need to get him bigger and stronger? No. We needed to focus on the efficiency of his first step and of his movements. Right. So every player is unique, and the longer they play, you break it up. When they're 20 to 25, you're working on this. 25 to 30, you're working on this. 30 to 35, so the player needs are constantly changing. Right.
What's more important, wanting to win or hating to lose?
You know what? I say hating to lose. I wrote a book, Habits of a Champion, and that's actually one of my chapter titles. Do you love to win or hate to lose? And those players that have a chip on their shoulder, they're a little bit red ass, and they're hungry. Every player wants to win. Wanting to win is easy. That's nice. That's happy. That's like going along with saying, be positive, be optimistic. It's like, no, I want to be negative and miserable. Mm-hmm. No, every player wants to win. But those that have it in their roots, they want to win because they never want to go back to the Dominican Republic, that same little town that they grew up in. That's a different kind of player.
Right. Now, when working with athletes, there are so many different personalities. Me being around professional baseball players for a number of years now, I've seen lots of different personalities, and some are easier to work with than others. What is the biggest challenge of working with different personalities?
Well, I think for me personally, and I don't say this, to not be humble, I don't have that problem with personalities, because I look at each person as an individual. Mm-hmm. You have issues with people and players and personality when you group everybody together. If you're going to group everyone together and address everyone as a whole, you're dead. Can't do it. Every player, the players that I got along best with were sort of these misfit type players. We brought in a guy like Sidney Ponson, who had a long career with the Yankees, and he'd fight anybody. And I loved him. Jorge Posada, if you pushed him the wrong way, he'd freak because he's that passionate, so you got to address him a certain way. So those players that are oftentimes a little bit controversial, I love them because I think that's what made them special and unique. And that's the way you have to approach any personality. It's got to be individualized. That has to be the approach. And I'll tell you what, the one thing that is never worked on is coaching. Nobody teaches coaches how to coach. That's what I do. I specialize in teaching coaches how to coach, not the X's and O's, but how to be a coach. Just like I work with leaders on how to be a leader.
Right.
So oftentimes if you're going to bring your personality issues and conflicts into conversation with somebody else, you're toast.
Right. Now, it's obvious that in recent years, the amounts of injuries have skyrocketed. What is the biggest problem, in your opinion, regarding the modern athlete's training regimen?
Well, I think that they're very focused on strength, power, and size. And the hyper focus on that, it takes away from their natural abilities, right? So to hit a home run, the last thing I heard, you don't need a 500-foot home run. Figure out what's the longest distance. What's the park in the big leagues or the minor leagues? Like, what's the deepest part of a park? 404, 410, 415, 420? Yeah. You don't have to hit a 500-foot home run. You just got to get it over the wall if that's the type of player you are. I think players today, number one, they're overworked. I think number two, the training is becoming more of an issue. You have this field of strength and conditioning where I spent a lot of my career, and it's focused on exactly that, strengthening and conditioning and getting players bigger, stronger, and more efficient at becoming bigger and stronger. And, I had a great talk years ago with Ichiro Suzuki that changed my life and my philosophy on training. And he said, when I came to the United States, I started training like an American. And what happened was I started getting more musculature. But when you get bigger musculature, what also tends to thicken is your tendons. And you only have so much space in these like the shoulder and the hip. So when those tendons get too big, everything starts to, you reduce space, you cause more friction, you become less limber, less mobile. And if you become less limber, less mobile, in order to generate power, which is you have to create this velocity, you become higher risk for injury. So that's what I was telling people, is like it's less about getting bigger and stronger, and it's more about power production, which is based on speed of movement, as opposed to just pumping iron. Right. The players today, and some of my colleagues may say, hey, what are you talking about? This is what our career is built on. But I think it's out of control. Players are doing way too much. The stuff I see players doing on Instagram is disgusting. Yeah. And it shows, for me, just horse shit coaching.
Yeah. It's heavy lifting really is what it is, and flexibility probably.
Yeah, you're turning these players into just basically gym rat meatheads. And what we found is the players that were spending the most time in the gym were oftentimes the players that were hurt the most. Right. And I'm not saying that's not saying don't work out. But like when I design programs, 60% of my program is on working, mobility, flexibility, lengthening, freeing the body of tension, strengthening the core, strengthening the joints that are most susceptible to injury, and then we put the strengthening on top of it. So you got 60% of that stuff. You have about 30% of the actual strengthening that's specific to the individual, and then the rest of the 10% that's left over is for your conditioning and for your overall recovery. So that's the thing, and it's sort of this, that the field is evolving, but it's going backwards. And this talk on velocity, you got arms blowing up at a speed now more than ever. And it's like, hey, let's go see these guys out in Seattle so we can learn how to throw harder.
Right.
And it's like, guys, we're investing in these arms. These arms are $1 million arms. There's no guarantee you get a Tommy John, you come back, the way that you started.
Right. Yeah. When you see starting pitchers throwing 100 miles an hour into the 7th inning, it's a ticking time bomb. Something's going to happen at some point.
Did you say into the 7th inning?
Yeah.
I don't see many starters going to the 7th inning anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? We got 5-inning pitchers now.
Yeah.
We pay they're getting paid the most to pitch 5 innings.
Right.
So again, how is all this benefiting the game? And I'm new school and I'm old school. And you can't have all this data, all this research, all this technology. Listen, you're measuring it. Look at how many players are getting hurt, more than ever.
Right.
You got more players getting hurt now than ever. So how is this field evolving? You got 9 people on a performance staff now. from this person for the head, this person for the body, this person's the trainer, this person for that. You got 9 different people, and the injuries are going up, 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 up.
Right.
So are we using the data or not? That's that. I don't know what's happening there.
Yeah, I'd rather sign a guy who's throwing their low 90s and who's durable rather than a guy who, had 2 Tommy Johns who's throwing upper 90s and you don't know what's going to happen, if it's going to happen again.
Well, you do know what's going to happen. Usually when a pitcher has 2 Tommy Johns, if it goes again, they're done. Their career's over. Usually when you see a guy have 2, he's oftentimes gonna blow again because there's some sort of mechanical issue there. And that's the other thing. I've talked to a lot of pitching coaches through the years, and you'll be amazed at how many pitching coaches don't want to touch a player's mechanics because that player, the mechanics that they naturally have, are oftentimes what make them great. So if you start changing them, you may take away some of that movement. We had that conversation with an AJ Burnett. Let him be, and let's just try to strengthen his most vulnerable areas. And that's what we did, and it actually worked out really well because his delivery was different than everybody else, but that's how he was able to get that wicked movement.
Right. I just want to switch gears a little bit and talk about your new book, not new, but book Habits of a Champion, as well as other CDs on improving performance. Can you just talk a little bit about your book and, you outline your principles of success as well as what you offer in your CDs?
Yeah. So Habits of a Champion was a book that I wrote as a coach that had read quite a bit of books. As a coach, it's our job. It's what we do to acquire as much knowledge and disseminate that to our players in the most consumable form that we can. So I would read all these books about, how to win and how to be successful and all that, and the, self-help, personal development, coaching section of the bookstore. And I would go to work every day and I'd see Joe Torre manage. I'd see Joe Girardi manage. I'd see Derek Jeter, what he does every day. Mariano, I'd study the habits of these great players and I'd study the habits of the great businessmen that I've worked with. So I read this book that says do this, this, and this. I'd go to work every day with the best of the best, and they don't do any of that. So what I realized very quickly was a lot of books are written as sort of these theoretical models, these classroom perfect world type books. Right. And I said, you know what? That's not really true. So I'm going to go write a book that's real. It's written in language that people understand. It tells real stories. And it's a personal development, personal growth book with a sports twist that you could open up any page and get better by reading that page. And it's direct application. And that's what I wanted. I wanted no BS, no salesmanship, no bravado, just boom, here you go. And I think a lot of coaches and athletes appreciate that. And, we've sold over 15,000 copies, so we're doing pretty good.
All right. How can the viewers find out more about your program?
So DanaCavalea.com is where sort of my gateway. I do a daily blog Monday through Friday, and then, have my other programs there. So that's what I do, man. I love coaching. I love coaching people, athletes, professionals. And that's what I enjoy doing, keeping them strong, fit, and watching them meet and reach and exceed their full potential.
Right. Now, before I let you go, there are lots of people who are facing adversity right now. And, it's important to find a way to fight through that. And, my baseball season is in jeopardy right now. But I've been able to start up this podcast and make lemonade out of lemons. With adversity comes opportunity. And it's important for people to have that positive mindset during these times. So what's your take on how people, not just athletes, can stay positive?
Yeah, well, I don't look at it as staying positive. I look at positivity as a result of where you are naturally. So I say this, right? We're only facing adversity if we see it as such. So if you see this time as adversity, that's what this time will be for you. And it'll be very hard for you to stay in an optimal champion's mindset if that's your headspace. So for me, I don't see this as adversity. I see it as opportunity in that I've gotten other books written. I've started, doing a lot of things that I needed to get done, organizing this, catching up on that. It's created great opportunity. So the first step of taking advantage of a time like this or any time in your life is saying, what can I get done right now? Action negates anxiousness, stress, fear, all of it. So you got to take action. It's the best way, and your headspace will change accordingly.
Right. Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much, and stay safe.
All right, Billy. Thanks, man.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here on the Bat Boys Corner podcast. We'll be right back.
Anchor Down Sports Performance and Billy the Bat Boys Corner have partnered up to bring to you Tip Tuesday, tips from professional baseball player Conrad Gregor. These tips are designed for young players who are learning the game of baseball and look to improve their skills. You can find these videos for free on BillyTheBatBoysCorner.com or on the YouTube channel Billy the Bat Boys Corner. All right, we are back here on the Bat Boys Corner podcast. We heard a lot of great stuff from Danny Cavalea, and definitely go check out his site, DannyCavaleia.com. You can check him out on Instagram as TheRealCoachD, on Twitter as Danny Cavalea, or on Facebook as well. So with that, we're going to wrap it up here on the Bat Boys Corner podcast. We'd like to thank everyone for tuning in and stay connected with us by following us on Instagram at Billy_the_Batboys_Corner, on Twitter at Billy the Batboy, on Facebook as Billy the Batboys Corner, and on TikTok as Billy the Batboy. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and turn on post notifications so you can be notified every time we post a new episode. Episode number 6 will be out soon, so stay tuned. That'll do it for now, and we'll see you next time here on the Bat Boys Corner podcast.
Hi, this is John Sterling, and you're listening to the Bat Boys Corner podcast.